Hi, I am Jane Bluestein. I have been in education for actually my 5th decade. I started back in the early 70s teaching inner city Pittsburgh. I've worked with kids from kindergarten through high school, either as a teacher, working with them as a counselor. I've worked in day treatment as a volunteer with really high-risk kids. And for the past, well, since early 80s, I have been running my own company, Instructional Support Services, out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've spent the past 40-some years looking at what works. And I visited schools, I train teachers, I work with teachers all over the world, and I've been fortunate enough to go to schools and see successful teaching and see not so successful teaching. And what I've been able to do is pull out some of the really salient, really practical strategies. What does it sound like when you're giving good directions? What does it sound like when you're responding to a kid who's kind of in your face? So my area of expertise has become discipline, classroom management, classroom climate, and relationships. And it's funny, being a discipline expert and having people calling me to talk about behavior management. You know, everybody comes and their expectation is, what do I do when? Give me a bigger hammer to hit them with. And what I want to do is kind of come around through a side door and look at ways, instead of how to react to misbehavior, is how to prevent it. As our profession continues to evolve and taking new research and applying new strategies and new paradigms and new models, the one basic constant is always going to be that relationship between the teacher and the kid. And, you know, by extension, the relationship between the teacher and the other teachers, and the relationship between the teacher and the administrators, and the relationship between the teacher and the parents, the relationship between the teacher and the parents. So what can we do to make that the best possible environment, to make my classroom, even if it's the only safe place in the school? And for some kids, they only really have one teacher where they know. And I know kids that, don't go to school except to see one teacher sometimes. And those are the ones that are making a difference. If you ask people who are successful in life to name the teachers that have made a difference, every single one of them can think of at least one person. And it may be a relative, it may be a neighbor, it may be a coach, it may be a counselor, it may be somebody. But if you ask kids that are struggling, kids that have dropped out, kids that are having addiction problems, kids that are having a hard time functioning in society, which teacher made the biggest difference, that question doesn't even make sense. There's no context for that. It's like, what teacher? So I want to be the one teacher that you may not even remember it's me. You may not even remember I was the one that made the difference, but something I said to you, maybe something in passing, something very casual, something I'll never remember, may strike a chord with you, and it may happen 20 years later. And so part of my passion comes from the optimism that I have in knowing, believing, and I have to believe this, that what I do is going to make a difference. And I also have to have the faith to know that I may never know that that happens, that it's going to happen whether, if I'm planting a garden, I can see results. Teachers, we have to live on faith, because, sometimes you see that aha moment, and that's really that's kind of what gets us out of bed in the morning. And also, I have to know that that aha moment may come years after I've been in this child's life and may never connect in that child's mind that I was the one that planted that seed. And that's okay.